Okay, today I'm just going to make a video on having a bigger stop loss and doing certain things that would most likely make you profitable in the start before you start trying to um, do these trades with the smaller stop losses, like the ones I take where the stop loss is just at the bottom of that candle and whatnot. I'm going to start telling you to take it with your stop loss being below the low of the recent range that it's holding off of, because that's gonna get you a lot more wins, and it's gonna start proving to yourself that you actually can make money. And the only reason you're not making money right now is because you're trying to get a smaller stop loss with two things. Kind of caring about taking these trades where you get swept out, and then next time you go to take it, you're skeptical because you might lose again, because you obviously lose like that quite a few times, which right now I'm sure you're both not okay with doing. But as time goes on, you just start to realize that it's going to happen all the time, and you're going to take losses by it sweeping you out. So right now, I just want you to have it at the low it's holding off of. So that's just going to be the video today of me just doing examples with that, and just showing you the how more likely it is for you to get a win doing that over having your stop loss like here, right? Because here's the thing: if you was in this moment trying to go for a long, right? Trying to go for a long. This is the order block anyway on the 5 minute, so we can jump down onto the 1 minute. Okay, cool. So this closed here, right? This came up and closed. This candle was gained. So this is the range that's holding. Right, this is the range that's getting created from holding this, and this should bring us up to here at the very least, the order block, which it does. You're gonna feel a lot more at stress having your stop loss, here. Whereas if this one was further down, right, and you had it like here, you're gonna feel a lot more at ease because it can come down and retest whatever, and you will still be in it. Whereas when you have scenarios where the stop loss is a lot smaller, let's say the stop loss was like here, if it comes back down, you're kind of just guaranteed a loss, really. Or you don't want it to come down because you're panicking because it's going sideways forever, and then you get stopped out anyway. So you just kind of want that bigger stop loss in the meantime until you get to the point where you can have a smaller stop loss, because you've either got to the point where you understand that you're going to take losses a lot doing this, or you just you start getting better and you don't get that many losses as you used to taking the smaller stop loss. So we'll just do some examples of doing this, so you can just see. So the direction for this was just this price action. My direction was to go down and up. I did want it just to go down, but doesn't matter what I want. So I'm pretty sure 230 took us down to around here or even lower, and then we continued up. So we can just do a couple of examples getting to that. So if we jump onto the 1 minute, let's go back on the 15 real quick. So 15 is already looking down right now, currently. Looking down until we close this higher. So we want this higher to be taken out, and then we can start shifting towards coming up to here, potentially closing this. So closed here, closed the interior high for this range. The exterior low broke, so you can only assume down. When you come up to here, you have to expect a sweep. When you go into the lower time frame, we obviously not hit that yet. No, so unfortunately we know what's going to happen in this next run, but this is this is something I would be looking at in the moment, would be obviously the order block holding us down. Like I said, if we close this, we should come up to here to try and attempt to break here. So in this moment, once it tests, I'm looking for a short, and for me it would just be, you know, 15-second range closing, getting into that there. This is what I think you should be doing right now. Is you think this should hold us down? Okay, the stop loss is only 4, so why can't we have it up here? It's 9. And to get it down to not even to the lowest point of the range, just to get to here, that's 1R, just to there. And this is going to stop you getting these unnecessary losses where, you know, if it does come up and spike up here and then go down, well, you would have got a loss there. Well, up here you wouldn't have. So having that bigger stop loss right now is going to be a lot better for you. And also as well, you might have even already taken a loss if you was trying to go as aggressive as the midpoint the moment it gained, right? Because we don't know if this tested back up. We don't know if it's tested back up after you would have got in, and that would have tested you out perfectly, and then it would have went in your direction. This wouldn't have happened if your stop loss was here. So moving forward, we want to see a reason on us not going down right now. If this is going to break, holding this, not getting down to here, is kind of signs that this is holding aggressively to try and break higher. So it's broke high on the 1 minute, didn't break high on the 5 minute. So right now I would kind of just wait. I would wait for this first higher to break on the 5 minute at least before I start considering longing up to here. And I would want to see this low go to start shorting, so I wouldn't take anything in these ranges right now. Because you think it's going to go down because you close exterior. And then we swept the top. So in theory we should go down, but it doesn't look like we're going to. So you kind of just have to wait and just understand you don't have a full idea on direction at this point. We don't close the low, so this should only flip the direction down. So this is a sign that we are going higher. Couple of ranges closed and then held, swept, didn't close. What we can do here is a trade off of this order block wouldn't be a bad idea, because like I said, this should only flip direction down momentarily. So your trade would be off of this level to go higher to break this, to confirm that this isn't a sweep, because if it was a sweep we should have already been down here by now, whereas it doesn't look like we are. Gone to the 5 minute, we see what's happening. Not really anything to say other than what we wanted to see break has broken, so we can expect it coming down to this order block. So once we go into the 1 minute, we know if we took the high of this, the likelihood of us getting stopped out is high. So I wouldn't look at the high, I'd look at the midpoint, because if I took the midpoint, whatever tested off of it, let's say it comes down to here and my stop loss can be here, well it's tested the 5, it doesn't have to go any lower. I want you to have your stop loss here though. I want your stop loss there to target here. This is 1.74R, even just to target here is 1R. So we wait. We definitely could have got something here. We go for the midpoint of this candle. We have a stop loss down here, that's only 10. You can still get in this easily. Up to here's 1R. And it goes straight to your target. This is going to be a lot better than you going for this. We don't know if this went up and then down and then back up, right? You could have got stopped out there. Having it here, you wouldn't have anyway. There would have been no no, maybe you would have got stopped out because your stop loss was down here. And then we go for the next thing. This already flipped direction, so the only thing we can really assume is flipping direction obviously is closing this higher to bring us down to here. So we get rid of this. The 5 minute range is holding. Let's keep that actually. Swept the bottom. If we swept the bottom, we have a top up here. Actually, I wouldn't really look at that as a top. I'd look at that as a top for this low, because this low brought the higher. So this is it, right? If we sweep this top, then there's still a world where we break this bottom. We've closed. We didn't test down, so I wouldn't have traded anything here. I wouldn't take this range because this range is testing into the high again, so I wouldn't want to take this. That's why. Okay, so this range closing and coming back up to this range. We can hold off of this bottom range, so I'd still be looking at this holding, because the 5 minute has closed these exterior highs. So if the 15 wants to do the same, oh, it already has. Okay, so the 15's already done the same. We can assume that we might get a run down. I still think there's a chance we should go higher. If we was going to go lower, we should have already done it. We should have just tested back up, broke this, only come up to here and gone lower, but we didn't. We started cycling up. So this order block doesn't look like it's holding right now. We've closed this higher, we've closed this higher. There's a world where we come back down to here on the 15 minute. So we'll be looking at this daily level. Is there a need to go down to that daily level though? Not really. This range has been closed and held. This range is closed. I'd be looking at this as a potential target. Can you short down to that yet? No, it's going sideways. Move forward, what's happened? We've closed the higher, we haven't closed the low. So the only thing we can assume is higher. On the 5 minute, we swept. So on the 5 minute looks like a different story. It looks like we're going lower. So in this point I'd wait for that bait range, because obviously on the 1 minute it looks like we're going higher. On the 5 minute it looks like we swept to go lower. So I'd want to see something hold off of this range here, so this sweep, to hold us to confirm we're not going lower. So there's the bait range. Held off of it, bait range got created, held. So to be honest, I don't see nothing wrong with you taking this range anyway, because it can come up to here before it goes lower. So what you could have done is taken this with your stop loss here to target this order block. Maybe have a bit of a smaller stop loss, like here, so you can get that 1R. That's what you could have done with the basis of what I just said. You close this, you should come up to the order block. So coming back up has confirmed that this isn't a sweep, so we can get rid of that fact. Once we close here, we'll go back a couple of candles. This is my bad. We've closed this high, so we can come back down to this 5 minute order block. So I'd be looking for price to come back down, show me it doesn't need to go lower. You have to realize that your order block for this range is here. That's quite a big stop loss, right? Just for the targets, and maybe just be here, could be up here. You could take this if you was going for the high of the order block. Still a big stop loss. You could have done it here. This is an okay stop loss in this scenario because it's quite big anyway. These are scenarios where you should have your stop loss below this range, because if it was down here, 15 is still, you can still take a trade with 15 stop loss, but it has to come all the way up to here for 1R, which I mean isn't too bad. It isn't too bad, but I think the range is big enough here for you to have it here. If you don't feel comfortable, well, we have a 1 minute range here that isn't too bad that you can take it off of. There's a low here, so maybe do that. Or you just do the bigger one, right? It's up to you really. It's just whatever you feel comfortable with doing, because you can still take every single one of these, because you're risking a lot more because you're on a combine. When you've passed, to be honest, you could only have it to here, or you won't be able to take the trade, because $25 is 12.5 a stop loss. So you can take this. If you have it here, you can't take it. But because you're on that combine challenge, you could even have it all the way down to here if you wanted to. Obviously I wouldn't, but you're more likely to get a win having it here than you would having it here, right? It does go up to your target. Jump onto the 15 minute. So we would be looking at this low is closed now, or this high. If this high is closed and we don't hold aggressively, and we don't close this, high, this range could be broken through to come down to here because we closed that high. That's what I'd be expecting right now in this moment, until the next candle closes and we see if we close this. So we're going to the 1 minute. So we would want this to close to tell us that this range is going to hold, and I won't really see a complete need of coming down to any of these ranges, maybe here or here. If it doesn't close, then I think this will only flip us back up to go lower. So what I'm looking for here right now is the low going. The low's gone. Not really any trades to take out. I wouldn't want to take this long, because this would just be necessarily a knife catch. It is the next range to trade down into. This range already tested into. This range, I guess you could have tested into, right? High and low. 15 minute. High and low. Okay, this isn't really a knife catch. This would be fine if you wanted to take this to try and get it up. I wouldn't have personally, but you can. I'd want to see a bait range close, bait range closed, or bait range created, held with a very interior range here that you could have taken a trade off of. Because you can see there's a high. This is on a 15 second time frame, or even still on the 1 minute. You see it. There's a high and a low. High was closed. Tested down. Tested down. Closed the high, but brought us down. This is your next range to test into and hold. You could have taken that. What would make this a more likely of working out trade would having it here and then taking it up to where you think it can flip before it takes us lower. So 1.18R up to here. This is what you could have done. Sure, you wouldn't be in it for this long, but you get my point, right? Even if it came back down, you still wasn't out of that. If you were still in it for that long, right? I don't think you would be in it this long. Personally, I wouldn't. It's up to you. You still can be, because it tests back down. I think if it was to test back down, what I used to do when I had a stop loss this big, if it did test back down and then it went back up, I wouldn't let it come back down again. So I would just break even at that point, which would have been here. I would have got stopped out. But we are holding that weekly, right? If we're holding that weekly, not coming up to here, that's perfectly fine, because you go into a higher time frame and you already see that you're testing that range, so we don't need to come that high anyway. So to be honest, being in that anyway and seeing that this being the 5 minute that could flip us, I wouldn't really allow it to come back down anyway. If that's holding, I'm looking for a reason to take a short. My reason is this: we've closed, we've swept, we didn't close, new range here, closed, test back up into it. We can take that. I'd rather take it off the highest, obviously the order block being here. We can take this. Our stop loss is still quite small though. That's the issue, because obviously the high is here, the more further away high is here, which is actually lower than the high of the range. So in this scenario, you either have it here or you have it here, which is still, you can still take that, right? But it has to go a lot further, which it still does. It still does, and this is the thing, you're going to get a lot more wins doing this, right? We've now closed this. We've came into the exterior range, which is the lowest point of that 15-minute range that didn't close. So I'm not really looking at this doing much other than flipping direction higher again momentarily, because we didn't close that high for the range. So I don't think it should really take us any further down. It shouldn't take us any further up than here, if it was to go higher. It's not going to go higher, right? Flipped us up to the range above, which is normally what happens. As we can see here, we go back. My bad again, moving the candle so fast. With a 5-minute range, we closed even the exterior one here, or this one. The order block for these ranges is still here, so this is the range above. We're already testing into that. We don't need to go as high as the 1 minute order block, remember. If you're holding the 5 minute, you don't need to come all the way up to here. Now we look for signs that this is actually holding. For me, it would be we're failing this high. We're coming lower down again. We come up. We close this one. So to be honest, I would have just missed this, because we also closed a more exterior one, and I wouldn't be happy with that. And I would just miss this trade simply, unless it came back up now. Which it doesn't. It tries to hold the low aggressively before breaking. It tried to sweep it and go higher. It failed. Why did it fail? Well, because we already swept the top. We're going to break the bottom anyway. So I think there was 1:30 news yesterday, if my memory serves me right. So that's coming up. Okay, cool. We've come up to the higher point of the range. We go into a higher time frame, so we kind of get a gist of what's going on. Still looks like we're going lower, right? On the 1 minute, it looks like we're going 10 times higher, but on the 15 minute, it looks like we've just came up to go lower. So this range here, that 5 minute range we was talking about, we got to look at it now and say, well, we did close this, so we can assume it comes up to here. It does do that. Go back 2 candles. We've closed that low, we can come to here. This is what I'd be thinking in the moment, right? I still think we can go lower. I said this range shouldn't really hold us. The 15 minutes still looks like it's going to go lower anyway. If we've closed these, we can flip up before going lower. So I'd be looking at, this is the 5 minute order block. You can go as deep as this. It doesn't have to go as deep as this. So what would I look for? I would look for a reason to take a short. Reason here would be we've created a big wick up, a rejection looking wick in my opinion. We've swept this higher. Okay, if we've swept the higher, the low is all the way down here for that higher, because if we're failing the higher we should break the low. This is already a trade setup for me personally, and you have it here. This is a good enough stop loss in my opinion. We don't need it all the way up here in this scenario. You could have it here, definitely. It doesn't need to be here. If you don't want it here, right, just have it a bit higher. But this one is perfectly fine to have it here because it's a big stop loss, right? We're trying to get to that low. Goes to the low. Obviously I'd rather just take it to the order block, right? Because we did at least close the high here, so this should only flip us. So we can assume once we get here it would flip anyway. What am I looking for now? I am looking for, I'm going into a higher time frame. I'm seeing we've closed this. We've closed this. We haven't held the low aggressively. Do we need to close this on a 15-minute time frame is what I'd be thinking. Yes, we do. So I can't assume that it's going to take us all the way higher. Yeah, because this hasn't closed yet, right? We just saw it does end up closing, but it's not closed on the 15-minute yet. So I'd be thinking, well, if we don't close this, and we come up to here, we can only really see this as it failed to move lower, and this should just break price higher instead of taking us down. So I'm still anticipating this breaking this, so this range above is something I'd be looking at. And you could do something like this. You could take this, you could have your stop loss all the way up here or here. I mean, it doesn't need to be all the way higher. We're just trying to make it so we don't take an unnecessary loss. And we could be trying to break that down for 1R. Because it coming down confirms that this range has closed in the 15-minute. We have 5 minutes to close this low. Now here, right, this confirms that this range can now be retested back into, so we let it be retested back into. If you miss this, instead of having your stop loss here, right, having your stop loss here, going for this order block and potentially getting swept out, you would have it up here because this is the range above. And you still would have got stopped out there, but that's besides the point. Going for this one, you wouldn't have. You had it at the top of the range. You still can take losses, obviously, having a bigger stop loss. Of course. Why did this fail? Well, we failed the low. We failed the low of this range. We closed the low of this range. Right? That's actually a bit. It's kind of my bad there. Talking about this trade because we didn't even close the low, so this shouldn't even, shouldn't really even take us down anyway. That's kind of my bad. In this moment here, looking back at this, now seeing it just didn't close, well, this isn't really going to hold anyway. Once we do close this, and if we was in this trade, we can assume that it's going to trade back up higher anyway, and it could sweep this range before going lower, which is exactly what happened. If we've closed this, we failed the high, we swept it, we could then come back higher again, we fail it again, we close this high or this low. If we get any trade higher again, we could take this range further down, which we have done. So now we're going to a higher time frame. We closed this low, so we can retest all the way back higher. We can go as high as this, or the 1 minute one, which is all the way here. Go as high as that. If we see something holding, unfortunately not, because it's 230. But if we saw something holding, we could have taken that, and actually we could have, and we still would have got a take profit, right? We take it all the way back to here. Imagine this wasn't 230, right? We take it all the way back to here. We close a low, so we can go as high as this. We see that holding. We take the midpoint of this candle. We have a stop loss up here. We take that down for 1R. It does go down to 1R, and that's just having that bigger stop loss. What would have happened if we didn't take that bigger stop loss is maybe we don't know, because this is a 230 candle, and obviously we can't see inside the 15-second. This could have came down here, got you in, came up, and then gone down. You would have got stopped out. You wouldn't have got stopped out here. So the difference on having a bigger stop loss and a smaller stop loss is you're going to get 10 times more wins. Has to go a bit further, yeah, but if you're right on direction, which you should be right on direction quite a lot of the time by now, is you're going to pick up a lot of wins. We come up to here, we foul. We foul this, we sweep it. Go into a 15-minute. The 15-minute does look like we shouldn't come any higher. I know it does, but in the moment I was thinking that we should sweep further down. We didn't, and I reacted off that and started longing. I think we do come a bit lower, actually, but I know we don't go lower. I remember going for this trade here as well. So we broke down. This was the 5-minute order block. So I was looking at, would this range here can hold, right? And this is kind of what it was testing into. So I took this trade here, went for the midpoint, and I just took it down for 2R, which was here. I did scrape a bit more out of it, because obviously I thought it was going to go lower. I'm not too sure where I got it to, but I know I got it a bit lower than 2R. I can only assume it was the low. And then, because that was I think that was the last short that was actually justifiable, because then we fouled this range, right? We should have closed, came up, held, it fouled. It fouled here. What you could have done, here, and this is the thing about trading this time, is you can't take these trades because your stop loss is 40. You can still take it because you're risking a lot right now. You could probably do 2 contracts, which is that would be $160 down to here to 1R, so it would be $160 as well. So you could have still taken it 100%. Obviously when you pass, you can't really be trading at this time with bigger stop losses, because a $40 stop loss is $80 on 1 minute. I remember coming up to here and still thinking we can short. We close, it's coming up to the highest point, which was this 1 minute candle. And then I was waiting for this low to go to confirm that, because in my opinion, if we were sweeping, we should have just gone straight down. We didn't. We came back up. I was looking for that low to go. It never went. Once it didn't go, I was kind of fixated on us breaking the further back 15-minute higher, which was this here. We closed this right. We did trade down into it on the 1 hour time frame. Closed, and then I think we was holding the 1 minute order block, which was kind of confirming we didn't have to go lower. So then seeing this come higher was kind of confirming to me that we was holding this range to now break the range that brought us down to that. So we're up here. We closed. We closed, so we can come as low as the order block. To rather kind of look at this, because this is the order block for this range. So we're looking here. We're looking here for price to come down to. Can sweep the range. Looking for a reason for this to hold. So we come down. We gain an order block. We can have our stop loss here. Not much of a difference, but it does make a difference. Trying to take that up for 1R. 1R would just be just before the flip of the order block. So this is the thing. If 1R is testing into nothing, which in this moment, okay, we have a weekly, it could flip into that. So maybe 1R, keeping it 1R is justifiable. If there was not a weekly here, we have an order block, you can always try and scrape out a bit more. So 1.16. 1.16 now. But remember, right, this should only flip. Even if it can flip, I'd rather you just take the profit, because it could bring you all the way back down to the break-even point and then go higher. So you could just get that, you know, and if it does flip, get it again. Why not? So, looking at the high going, we failed this high, we finally closed up. So if we fail this high but we close this, I'm still kind of looking at this range as something that's holding, because we closed the further away high. We've closed up. We're coming down. What am I looking at here? I'd be looking at, if this range closes, it's confirmed to me we don't have to come down to the order block, and we are holding the inversion fair value gap. Because right now we close this. This could be used to take us down to that to go up. So we wait. Okay, we've closed, we've came down. Yes, we closed, we came down. This range here, I would take. So if this becomes the order block, I would take this. Have your stop loss here. Target 1R here. Or you can go a bit deeper, right? Go for the midpoint of the creation of that order block. It shouldn't go any lower than the low, which is here. Take it to there. Where is the midpoint? So the midpoint's here. If that does become the order block, right? Which it doesn't. Till here, so it tested into the order block. No reason to go lower. We gain the order block. Once we gain it, we can get into that. The moment it touches, where should it flip? We tested that range, so it's already flipped there. The only place it could really flip if it was going to is off of closing this high. So I think 1R here is justifiable. We take that 1R. Now we've closed that range. It can test this range to try and break this range if we haven't done that already. If we have, I wouldn't be looking at this range. I'd be looking at here, this order block, because this order block is the same for this high and this high. We failed that, so I would still just look at this one to try and break this high here. So we could have taken that order block with our stop loss not here but here, because it can test down and still go up, right? With that bigger stop loss, it's going to compensate for those kind of stupid losses that you pick up, and then we're taking it up to the point where it can flip. We didn't close, but this can still flip direction. That's 1R if you wanted to take it there, maybe a bit higher, up to you, right? We fouled this range, so I wouldn't be looking at this. Even if it does hold, I wouldn't be looking at it because we fouled the higher. So we fouled the high and we go lower. That's why this range isn't going to work out. We fouled. Why is this range going to hold if we fouled the high? Now I'll go into more exterior time frame to see if there is a reason why we're coming further down. Choppy. We still haven't closed. We did close that external high now, so we can come down to here if we wanted to. So seeing this, you could start targeting that, right? Because we did already hold this range, so this closing here should just be flipping us higher before lower. I'd want to see a bait range hold to confirm that beforehand. And it doesn't, so you can only assume higher still. Closed, go into a higher time frame. Closed. Look at the order block here. Can go as deep as this low. So I'd be looking at this 5-minute order block. There's an inversion fair value gap. The fair value gap on the uninversion side is here. So it could hold one of these levels. If it is, you could look at this range really, because the inversion fair value gap is there. Okay, you tested that perfectly. You could have done this. Maybe have it a bit smaller, so 1R can be where it flips. If it does, be in the order block. You're going to be able to take trades like this off of fair value gaps if you have your stop loss below the low of the previous range, because if you have it here, right, if you have it here, it can get you in, test down, stop you out, and then go higher. By having this stop loss, it wouldn't get you out of it, right? This is the power of having a bigger one. And it breaks straight up. Okay, go into a high time frame. Is there a reason to go lower? No, because we still haven't closed it on the 15-minute. 5-minute already closed that range, it tested down, so we can only look at this next 5-minute range. with a high and a low. Come down into that. If I still think we're gonna break higher because we haven't done on the 15-minute yet, is I would look at this range that we just closed off of. Sorry, we just went up off of. We're holding that. I'm going straight up. Look at that, right? How much more comfortable would that be over this? You're still getting 1R. Here, you only has to go to here, right, for 1R, but it's just, I know it feels 10 times more risky doing that right now for you. For me, it's fine because I'm okay with knowing that I'm going to take losses regardless, but at that start, when you're just trying to get profit, have that bigger stop loss at the start. You know, easy win. Okay, we're assuming it should go higher because it hasn't closed in the 15-minute. It's no close in the 15-minute. We could still assume it comes down to that range, right? Because it could go to this 15-minute order block higher. So we'd be expecting shorts here. Closed. We closed in the 15 minutes, so it should flip now. Closed here. We take this order block. Don't have a stop loss here, we have it here. And we can assume it's going to go all the way down to this range. 1R is just here. It doesn't get there, but would you have taken a loss here? No. Move on. Sorry, and why you wouldn't take a loss there? It's because why? I mean, you're not really going to be in it once it comes back down, right? I mean, you can be if you want, but you're already failing to close the lows. If you're failing to close the lows, in my opinion, this is a case where I would just be breaking because we're failing the lows. If it broke the lows, then I wouldn't have been. And you kind of get a second chance of getting out break even here, right? Because it misses you. Luckily, closes. You know, it can come back down to the order block, so you could break even. There's countless times where you can break even here. Only assume higher then, right? Still cycling. Close this range. Should be targeting this. Holding this. Didn't hold the order block, but we holded the lowest point of it. Held the lowest point of it. 1R would be to here. When and why would we break even is if we failed a high. So not yet. There was no reason to break even here at all. We didn't even test a high. What would have happened if we took this with a stop loss here? We would have taken a loss. We didn't take a loss if we had it here or here. And it went up for a win. Cool. So it came down, held aggressively. Was confirmed that the holding of aggression is going to be closing that. However, it brought us down to that and held it aggressively. It's holding the highest point of the range again. I still think this can go lower. It's failing the high, so why am I going to take a trade off of this? If I did take a trade off of whatever it's testing here and we're failing at high, I would break even. Because I still think we can go lower. I wouldn't really want to be in that anyway. It's going sideways so long. You wouldn't have taken a loss if you did have your stop loss here. That's besides the point though. The point is feeling more comfortable in a trade. You're not going to feel comfortable in a trade if your stop loss is here and it's hovering around here for literally almost 20 minutes. Go into a higher time frame. What's happening? Not really anything to look at. The only target we have is here, so we can just still assume just higher. 5 minute. Not much to look at on the 5 minute. We closed, there was a range here, a very interior range on the 5. Closed, the lows here, already held that. We don't really have a low here, so I wouldn't really take anything in this range until we close this high, because then we have a defined range. And it does just rip up, but I would have been waiting for that to close to then take a trade. We've tested the 4 hour now. This was where I was assuming in the first place it could flip. It doesn't end up flipping, it does just rocket all the way higher, which is kind of a shame, because it just means we're going to all-time highs. Wasn't trading at this time, obviously it's 11. But yeah, I'll end the video here, but you can see the difference in having that bigger stop loss, right? You can near enough take every single range stress-free. You know, you take stop loss at the bottom of the range prior. You take testing this high, have your stop loss at the range prior. 1R. You're going to feel a lot more comfortable doing this over and over again. Every trade you get in, you're going to feel more at ease. Stop loss below the low of it. The range is holding instead of here. Right, every single range you're just going to feel more comfortable doing. Even if you took this, had your stop loss here, same thing, right? Closed. You know, even if you took something like this as well, stop loss here. Bigger stop loss means more wins. That's basically the moral of the video. Bigger stop loss equals more wins.